British holidays are the stuff of legends. Strong winds, horrible rain, poo in the sea, floating next to your 2.5 kids as they freeze to death attempting to enjoy swimming in ice-cold water. It's the stuff that dreams are made of. Granted, not the best dreams you've ever had, but dreams nonetheless. Nightmares are also dreams. Fish and chips in a cafe by the sea. A seagull stealing your lunch from you because you looked away for 2 seconds to see a local Wetherspoons goblin taking a shit in front of a World War I memorial, thinking to yourself all the while, how could life possibly get any better than this? No, this isn't an advert for Greggs, although a sausage roll is obviously the only thing that could improve a wonderful summer's day in sunny Skegness. I'm asking you, dear viewers, to picture the king of British holiday destinations instead, Butlins. And ask yourself, as you imagine the mid-tier service, the dreary atmosphere, and the, for some reason, EDM festivals, how would anyone possibly have any reason to fight the ultimate British holiday resort that isn't called Centre Parks, that is? Enter Harry Potter author and the only person whose brain Elon Musk managed to successfully rewire, J.K. Rowling, who, after seeing someone who works for the company getting disciplined after violently manhandling the customers, noticed that those customers were transgender and got absolutely livid at the idea that violence against a minority group was not allowed. In Butlins, of all places, a grand British tradition. And honestly, she's kind of got a point. What could possibly be more British than persecuting minorities for the crime of existing inside of a rich white Tory who lives in a castle? That, dear viewers, is truly the British dream. But why did this happen? How did this happen? What does it say about Sir Keir Starmer's Britain? And to preempt a question from the Americans in my audience, what the fuck is a Butlins? I, Bridget Empire, your science and culture correspondent, will be here to answer all and none of those questions in this week's edition of the Daily Telegraph, the only newspaper in Britain that is more readable when used as a wrapping for your fish and chips. No seagull will steal your meal when Dan's face is staring at it from the front cover, and if you think that's some powerful dark magic, wait until you see the photo shoot he did for page 3. But enough about Dan's double Ds. This is about J.K. Rowling, and about Butlins. So what exactly happened here? What could Butlins, the Copacabana of the British seaside, possibly have done to upset Jamal Khashoggi Rowling? Well, according to the Metro, the newspaper that at least has the grace to be free, given the quality of British journalism, this happened. Butlins has suspended 2 security guards who, it's alleged, violently dragged a group of trans women from women's toilets. Okay, so Rowling is angry at Butlins for actively discriminating against trans people then. Finally! I guess when she said she'd march with us if our rights were under attack, she did mean it after all. However belatedly, and despite having done much of the attacking herself, except, well, this was apparently the part about the incident she actually liked. Clearly, security guards violently ejecting women from toilets is what she's been wanting all along. It'd be super awkward then if she'd written a book in which a major plot point involved 2 boys going into a woman's toilet. How convenient that that little chamber pot of secrets doesn't get talked about anymore. The group were at Bangface, a 2-day electronic music event at the chain's Skegness holiday camp on October 5th, when it said this incident happened. Oh, Jesus, okay. So now not only do I have to explain Butlins, but I have to explain Bangface? Britain's a fake fucking country, I swear to God. Okay, Bangface is an EDM festival. From that alone you get the vibe. It's an EDM festival that was at Butlins in Skegness this year. Butlins is like if you imagine the most depressing holiday on earth and sold that as an experience. Skegness, or Skeg Vegas as we call it in the East Midlands, is a seaside town where you can dip your toes in some good old brown sea, next to some open sewage pipes, play a bunch of those 2p gambling games that are just scams designed to fleece children out of their pocket money, and eat fish and chips and get drunk. I don't know why I'm saying that, it's actually pretty legendary and I kind of love it. One event goer, Jay Roberts, posted on Instagram to say that they were targeted by a security guard for intervening. They wrote, Butlins security just dragged 5 trans people out of the women's toilets. Got slammed against the wall and dragged downstairs for intervening. Everyone in the toilets was chanting, "Let them pee! Let them pee!" They added. Security escalated the situation without any physical provocation. They called in 10 security guards as reinforcements before starting to drag people out. I personally was dragged down a flight of stairs by 2 security guards. The incident allegedly started when a security guard followed a person into the women's toilets and told them to leave because they were a man. So, the security guards followed people into the restroom and then assaulted a bunch of people unprompted. Other people in the restroom with them wanted them to be there to the point of chanting for them to be allowed to pee in there. Butlins themselves confirmed that the security guards acted against all the policies of the firm and therefore would have been in trouble regardless, and this all started because a security guard followed a woman into the women's toilets and accused her of being a man, followed by then calling in 10 other guards to drag this one person out. Because obviously a trans person existing in public is so powerful, it takes 10 people to take down just one of us. That's obvious to all of us, right? I mean, check out these guns. So, following these events, 2 security guards were suspended. Considering the description of this incident, that's actually quite a conservative response. Inappropriate escalation, violence against customers, harassing customers, and all that, and 9 of the people involved got away with it? You would think that would be a win for the transphobe camp, right? Well, no. And in fact, the removal of any guards from this event was seen as a massive scandal by anti-bullying hero and woman who has never stepped foot in a Butlins in her life, Jaffa Cake Rowling, who took to cool and normal website, twitter.com, I will be using the website's biological name out of respect for J.K. Rowling here, to say, "Does Butlins think the desire of cross-dressing men to enter women-only spaces is more important than women and girls' right to privacy and dignity? Hopefully Butlins will explain their policy so women and families can make an informed choice about where to go on holiday." Now, putting aside the obviously transphobic use of cross-dressing men to refer to trans women, the women and girls in the toilet were, according to as unbiased news sources as the British media, and indeed the Metro, probably one of the newspapers most regularly used as toilet paper given where it's distributed, more than happy for the women who were violently dragged out this bathroom to stay. They chanted for it. They were basically protesting for their right to stay. So I don't think you're exactly fighting for the rights of privacy and dignity, and certainly not the privacy and dignity of the women who were followed into the toilet by security, dragged out by security, dragged downstairs by security, and now have to have that story plastered all over the mainstream media. Not a lot of privacy and dignity in that, is there? What's more, if you're a woman taking a pee, what's going to be more of a disruption to your privacy and dignity? A trans woman taking a pee in a cubicle nearby, or 11 security guards barging into the bathroom, screaming for people to leave, and then dragging people out to angry protest from your fellow bathroom babes? I know which I'd rather deal with. Also, Rowling has never been to Butlins. Let's just get that out there. I can say that with certainty. And certainly she won't be going now, least of all during an EDM festival. She can scream, cry, and throw up all she likes about trans women peeing somewhere she's never been and never will, and all that does is make her look absolutely batshit. Why are you, a billionaire, in a castle in Edinburgh, with all the money and power in the world, more influence than most of us could ever dream of, seething about a couple of paws taking a piss in Skegness? You're too rich for Las Vegas. Never mind Skeg Vegas. And if you're thinking then it's still absolutely fucked to punish people for kicking out trans people, well, you're wrong. But Butlins has made it clear that this wasn't even the reason the security guards were punished. Apparently it's absolutely fine and within their rules to kick off against trans people for no reason. The reason these guards got reprimanded was because of their violent handling of the situation. The firm said that the guards' suspension had nothing to do with the trans woman's gender identity, and said it was due to the way they were allegedly removed from the toilets. So, that sucks for trans people, and it means Rowling has no fucking business whinging about it, unless she just really likes security guards using excessive force. Which tracks, given she spent 7 books making it look like her boy wizard character Harry Potter was gonna do something of great importance, before having him defeat evil by default and sheer luck, and then joining the wizard cops who famously put his innocent godfather in solitary confinement torture jail for a decade. This woman's relationship with morality is loose at best, and that's without even mentioning the pro-slavery message of her work. Of course, her followers responded very normally to her tweet, and the fact that she was basically hallucinating a horrifying situation and crying that violence against people going to pee was being met with consequences resulted in very measured and considered responses from the peaceful denizens of Elon Musk's Twitter.
I'm a gay man, and if I took my sister's kids to the toilet, they're girls, I certainly wouldn't want you cross-dressers in there at the same time period. Always sport female.
What an absolute disgrace Butlins is!
Your description is exactly what's happening in America. It should be mandatory for anyone who wants to be trans, have all their bits cut off effective immediately, otherwise it's a fetish.
Disregard of rights is one of three elements of an ethical dilemma. Heavy need and excess are the other two. Failure to or inability to safeguard girls or enforce laws offers excess. Heavy need develops when a person chooses dubious sociopathic or addictive compulsive roles. The West's obsession with men who wear women's clothes is nauseating. I don't want biological men going in the same spaces as my daughter or anyone's daughter at 10 Downing Street.
If the argument is constantly used that biology and gender identity are two different things, why does the biological function of using a toilet need to conform with the person's chosen gender identity? Checkmate, atheists!
This needs to happen far more often. Get biological men out of women's toilets to other safe spaces. If these people cannot use the restrooms assigned at birth, then they should stay at home. Arrest them all! Lock the perverts up! I support Butlins!
I doubt literally everyone in that washroom were yelling at the security guards to fuck off and let people pee. That's a lie! The women in there were relieved something was being done.
Is Butlins safe for women and young girls? As Spock would say, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Organisers of such events should make sure that Portaloo toilets are available for trans people.
We focus on dudes becoming ladies for bathrooms,
And yes, I am a woman, and yes, it does make me uncomfortable when I am using the loo and a trans person is there. But what about men who with women who trans to men using the men's loo? I am sure men feel uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable for men as it is to pee next to each other. Ironically, women had to do that in Victorian era. Learn that in London tubs. You can see old Victorian bathrooms at one of the station. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. Okay, so for the Americans in my audience, you have to understand that Butlins, as much as people do go to it, is a bit of a joke. And just in case you're not convinced, it was literally founded by a man named Billy Butlin. Britain is a very normal country, and definitely wasn't written by Roald Dahl. Anyway, it was originally made to make affordable holiday destinations for poorer families, which is pretty neat, but they are famously, these days, a little bit shite, as is Britain itself, so it's a perfect distillation of the country in holiday camp form. In fact, to just illustrate the kind of place this is, let me read to you the first review that comes up on Google when you search for Skegness Butlins, the resort that this incident took place in. First of all, I had to give this place a 1-star review to write this. It doesn't even deserve that. The advertising on the TV for this place is false. It looks nothing like the pictures you see on the TV. As you drive around the camp looking for your shack, most of the rooms look like they have some kind of fire damage. Billy Butlin would turn in his grave if he saw the room I'm stopping in. Almost 900 quid we paid for a 3-night stay in what they call a new silver standard room. It is disgusting. Cobwebs, black mould, dirty carpet, stained sofa, etc. The place was opened in April 1936. I also think that was the last time it was ever cleaned, which was 88 years ago. The money they must be making for people every year must be in the millions. Surely a lick of paint on the old buildings and modernise the rooms so that people still aren't stuck in the 1930s would be the minimal thing to do when coming to a site like this. Can't see me coming back here again. I would hate to see what the other rooms are like below the silver standard ones. It's not just the rooms though. The old place means knocking down and starting again. It makes you proud to be British. So obviously, Rowling doesn't care about this because of any reason other than transphobia. Now, I know that's obvious to most of us and has been for a long time, but the funny thing about this story is that it's coming at a period when the flow of transphobic articles out of the British press is actually starting to slow down somewhat. Not stop, mind you, but slow down. Now, instead of every newspaper putting out rabid transphobic hate screeds every day, now the Telegraph, the Mail, the Spectator still do, but other outlets have slowed down a little, and even released some normal articles that are weirdly sympathetic about us, given they're coming from the people who've been whipping up bloodlust against us for a decade. I don't know if they're just taking a break, but it does mean that we get some interesting responses to this scenario that we would have never gotten in the mainstream press even half a year ago. Why are they actually reporting on these events largely accurately for once? Why are they frothing at the mouth like less than usual? Did something happen? Is this the work of an enemy stand? Lee Hurley of the Trans Agenda on Substack noted this phenomenon of the changing pace of media transphobia in the UK, and if you're interested in tracking this in real time, I'd highly recommend checking their Substack out. They actually count the numbers of anti-trans articles each week, and from which papers. Anyway, as they put it in their most recent edition at the time of writing, in terms of numbers, this week saw the most articles about trans people since the start of September, but at 17, it is still some way away from the 48 plus we were seeing in July. Still, it's not fun, and there was still only one day this week without any articles at all. The Guardian broke their 27-day no-article streak on Friday, when they published a piece of England's cricket governing body, the ECB, banning trans women from the top 2 tiers of the sport. Now, as you can see, they haven't stopped, but it is a marked change, and in retrospect, I suppose that shouldn't be altogether surprising. Much like Rosie Duffield quitting the Labour Party now it's adopted her transphobic position and is in power enacting it, they basically got everything they wanted out of this moral panic. We went from a situation where both major parties were nominally pro-trans in 2017 to both being virulently and actively anti-trans in 2024, to the point where both Labour and the Tories are united in banning under-18s from receiving puberty blockers. Unless they're cis, that is. United in upholding Section 28 version 2 transphobic boogaloo, taking turns to suck Hillary Cass's toes for writing a horrifically unscientific report that dismisses the consensus of the World Medical Associations and mountains of evidence for the benefits of puberty blockers and hormone replacement therapy in favour of one study in sheep, exempting trans people from any conversion therapy ban. And more besides. The media has succeeded in preventing trans people from getting any headway in terms of increased dignity, increased medical care, and legal recognition. Never mind the specifics that we've been begging for, like desegregating the NHS and self-ID. And the media did this by spending an entire decade smearing us as horrific goddamn vampires. I don't so much suspect they've had a change of heart, as much as they've either got everything they wanted, lost steam in their hate campaign, or both. They've been at this as long as they were at the gay panic in the previous century at this point. Even the most frothing at the mouth bigots surely run out of things to say eventually. Right? Well, maybe some of them, but this brings us back to Jimmy Kimmel Rowling, and how The Independent actually wrote a pretty good article about her response to this Butlins debacle, one of the most refreshing articles I've read in the British press on this topic for quite some time. There's a conflict brewing that could bring the UK to its knees. On one side, we have a beloved British cultural institution that has helped create happy memories for children all over the UK and brought joy to millions. On the other, J.K. Rowling. It's a real clash of twee Middle England titans. This time she's feuding with Butlins, after the holiday camp franchise suspended security staff for ejecting transgender women from one of its ladies' bathroom facilities at its park in Skeg Vegas. Staff were accused of violently dragging the 5 women from one of its bathrooms, to which the company later issued an apology, claiming it is an inclusive business. After getting wind of the incident, Rowling took to her Twitter account, the place she does most of her best fantasy writing nowadays, to slam the company. Can I believe my eyes? Someone actually giving a witty retort to Rowling's ridiculous obsession with the community in the British media? Well, it is The Independent, which has never been the worst at this. I'd be more surprised if this was the Sunday Times or the Telegraph or even the Guardian. But whatever the reasons for what could genuinely be a shift in the intensity of the hate across the British media, I was grateful for this. To go from that to obsessively campaigning against a marginalised group and slating them as cross-dressing men is a type of cognitive dissonance that shouldn't even be possible. Did she write those books in a fugue state? Were we supposed to be on Voldemort's side the whole time? Watching Rowling deliberately misgender people on social media really made me reevaluate what I was supposed to take away from the Death Eater's use of mudblood. Let's be crystal clear here. Rowling's stance on trans people is problematic because it assumes an entire group of people to be A, homogenous, and B, inherently dangerous. She constantly talks about protecting these spaces from trans people, as if they can cause harm by their very existence, or are only motivated by a desire to cause harm. That is, by definition, a form of bigotry. I believe in America you would call that bars. I'll link this article below, and I highly recommend you read it. We could all do with a bit of relief after so long. We've been through a lot since the media really went full force with the trans panic. I remember when this was all just starting, and The Guardian still had trans people regularly writing for them. I saw Paris Lees and Sean Fay in mainstream media outlets from time to time. Owen Jones was once upon a time not the only person at The Guardian who wasn't consistently calling for trans people to get in the giant wheelie bin to hell. Now, Britain's been a miserable place to be trans for a decade. At least, more so than usual. And in large part because of the media and political environment. In my experience, the public, people at large have always been pretty great, and have even gotten better and more accepting over the years. Meanwhile, our politicians went from agreeing we need to scrap our awful gatekeeping systems and make changing identification easier, to consistently trying to outdo each other on their cruelty towards trans people and anyone who even gives the slightest shit about us. To the point where we had Jolie and Morn of the Good Law Project advising anyone with trans kids to try and leave the country for their safety. And now a majority Labour government is proudly touting the greatness of the infamously bad Cass Review, having made her a sitting member of the House of Lords for essentially writing a manual saying it's okay to throw us into a wood chipper, and has adopted a stance on trans people that was considered fascist and to the right of the Tories until only a couple of short years ago. They're far to the right of Theresa May. But things might actually be changing, at least in the media environment. Maybe this is a weird time to be saying this. There's an election happening in America in a few short weeks at the time of writing where one candidate is explicitly saying he'll come after us, and the other's response is just, hey, we don't like trans people either. Over in the UK, over 200 trans people have been taken off hormone replacement therapy by their doctors thanks to new guidance that is just bizarre and can be read as basically saying you don't have to prescribe them if you don't think you're qualified to. And yet, as bad as things are, and they are bad, and they got worse since I wrote this, there definitely seems to be a shift in the way the media is acting. Hey, editing Bridget here. After I gave the script a few weeks to see just how bad things could get before I started optimism posting, in the intervening time, West Streeting met with a bunch of transphobic hate groups and hinted to do a bathroom ban, and the puberty blocker ban was made permanent in Northern Ireland on his advice, and between the time of actually writing this updated section and filming, it has been made permanent in the UK too, based on nothing but hate. Remember, it was temporarily put in place until the highly unethical follow-ups to the Cass Review was supposed to be done. Making it permanent only makes sense if you're doing this just to punish trans kids. On top of that, Trump won in the US, and so that country's about to become a very scary place to be trans, and will likely push the rest of the world to follow suit. So things are really bad. And that's what the last decade of continuous hate against us in the press was working towards. Now the columnists have started laying down their pitchforks and torches, however, we might be on the precipice of a turn. But as always, things are going to get worse, possibly much worse, before they get better. Rowling can tweet a tirade about the cruelty of Butlins for disciplining violent security guards, and even the mainstream media can see that it's ridiculous. Newspapers can look at an issue about to go to print and not send a last-minute email asking for 3 more hate screeds from Helen Joyce to pay them out. Did they just get everything they wanted? Or are they just tired? Are they just taking a breather? I actually have a little bit of hope that we might be nearing the end of this. It might well be false hope, especially based on what's happened since I wrote this, but especially after the way Rowling and company reacted to the Olympics, how clearly wrong they were about boxer Iman Khalif being trans, and how obvious it was to so many of us that they were straight up lying about her. People, at least most people, might finally have gotten the message that these aren't people worth listening to. A tran can dream, right? 10 years in the trenches, and now it looks like the fire might be slowing down, at least briefly. With any luck, we'll be home for Christmas. Thanks for watching. Hey, thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. If you like this video, leave a comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, share it with everyone, give it a like and all that good stuff. And give me some money for Christmas because December doesn't make any, and I like it, and I don't want to be my overdraft anymore, and it's quite big, and I would appreciate it. Please, please, please. I love you. You are the best. You can do that on Coffee or PayPal, links below as always, or sign up to my Patreon. I get early videos, access to members in Discord, and my Nintendo Switch friend code, and exclusive content. And you'll also, if you sign up, get your name read out at the end of each video, just like these lovely people. Quesadilla, the Tortilla Azul. Leron, Adam Lees, Daniel Nevels, No Not That Paul, MB, Madeline Aguirre, Ben Murphy, Lex Phoenix, Andy Kurzitz, Janelle, Mira D, Jade Senior, Boa Ear, James W. Marford, or Tamsin, Bob the Builder 544554, Deborah Laboon, Vegas, Zilla Zathanium, Vince Whitaker, Amelia Unchained, Sarah Jason Haig, Frank McManus, Susan Foster, Helena Riel, Sierra Whiskey, Arestria, Ali Catgill, John N. Scully, Lloyd Luciente, Jason Cribbett, Shield Baden, Robin Podolsky, Turtle Toombs, Casual Observer, Manti Ray, Courtney Burmack, Sleepy Slug, Philippa Tabrogga, Soma Piglet, Brain Douche, Artie Wolf, Greg Noble, Deanna McMillan, Carolyn Regalado, Alexandra Lilly, Howard Lott, Nerania Scardia, and Joey Cobalt. God, I hope things are ending soon. This script got pushed back a bit because bad things kept happening, but eventually I just wanted to put it out. I liked the jokes I made, so even though I do get a bit optimistic at the end, I mean, I still feel optimistic in the long term. But yeah, that puberty blocker ban, permanent, oof. Woof, I imagine I'll make something on that in the next few weeks, but maybe I'll have a nice Christmas before I put myself through that torture. When here I was about to write like a fucking 6,000 thing on carbon capture, and I'll have to fucking wait properly. Well, West Streeting. I hope someone